Good morning. I'm really glad to be back. Thank you. I'm really glad to be back. Yeah. Roberta's still asleep. Still we're dealing, little jet lag we got to deal with. So. But I'm doing okay with that. Speaking of vacations, I thought I'd preach about it today. And I begin with a story. So years ago, I was studying Spanish down in Mexico, in Morelia, Michoacan. And at the end of my intensive study deal, 5 weeks, I guess, I decided I would take a vacation from that and go to Vallarta, Puerto Vallarta. So I got on the bus and I went over the mountain and got a cheap motel room in the Mexican end of town. And then I was wandering around Vallarta and I see this sign for you can take a boat to this place called Jalapa, which is south of Vallarta. Anybody ever been there? It's a kind of a remote beach in the jungle. So I decide, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm splurging. It's my vacation. So I get on the boat and immediately I meet this young couple, Americans, and they were on honeymoon. Anyway, they got chatty with me. Chattier and chattier and chattier. Anyway, talking a mile a minute, I just like, okay, listening. Then they find out that I'm a pastor. Then they really want to talk. And they're like this, the whole boat ride. I'm going, okay, this is interesting. We get to Jalapa and then immediately they take off and they just decide they're going to do all the activities, right? All the activities of Jalapa. They got to do all of them. And I'm just wandering around and hiking. I'm just like, this is beautiful. I'm just going to go hiking. But I kept turning around and seeing this couple, they're water skiing one minute and they're paragliding the next minute. And they're on the backs of donkeys. They passed me on donkeys on a trail and hi, Anyway, I'm just cracking up at these people. And then we get back on the boat to go back to Vallarta and they want to talk some more. And they're really talking. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And they please come with us to the bar. And I go, okay, fine. So I go to the bar and they've got, big buckets of coronitas, little beers. It's like, why bother with little ones if you're going to drink 20 of them? But anyway, there they were, pushing cerveza on me and talking. Finally, it kind of dawns on me. These guys, they're having a hard time. This is their honeymoon is difficult. It's not going. It's not all sunshine and happiness. These guys are actually very uncomfortable with each other. They really don't know each other that well. They have not really worked out a lot of stuff. And I realized I was being their pastor basically and listening to their confession. They were, we're getting deeper and deeper and. Of course, this is involving a lot of cerveza, right? So that's complicating the discussion. Anyway, but I just became aware that these folks were troubled. They were having a hard time. And what they were doing was going through the ritual of the honeymoon. It was a ritual. And the ritual involved being at the beach and being at the water and doing activities. And so they were doing all these activities. But the fact is these guys were frantic and they were not in a very good place. Anyway, finally, I just urged on them. I go, you might consider kind of giving up your fantasy here about your honeymoon and just taking this time to lie together on the beach and just tell your truth to each other, especially if it's uncomfortable. Tell each other stuff that's not comfortable to talk about, that you think you should not be talking about at your honeymoon. Talk about that while you lie on the sand, doing nothing else. Just sit there, lie there, and have an honest chat. Oh, thank you. They're at it. Anyway, so this is my way of saying, I'd like to leave now and move on because I'm on vacation, And they're, when I said that, they were just like, then they really were pouring it out. And finally I go, look, I'm out of here. Goodbye. And it was at that moment that I realized that I needed a vacation from this vacation that I was taking. And I get back to my hotel room. I'm just like, oh, exhausted by this whole encounter. Have you ever had that experience where you needed a vacation from your vacation? You know what I'm talking about? It's like, think of all the reasons we go on vacation. It's kind of wild when you think about it, right? I mean, we go on vacation we go on family vacations with family to go visit family. Well, hello, that can be exhausting. Yes, very often it is quite exhausting. And you definitely need a vacation after that vacation. Some vacations we take specifically to get away from family, right? Sometimes you take your family on a vacation to get them away from the other people in your family. I mean, and then there's the bucket list vacation where you're, madly checking off things on your bucket list. It's like things I want to do before I die. Got to go here. Got to do this. Got to do that. And that can get frantic. And you might get to a point where like maybe you need a break from your own bucket list. So it's there are a lot of reasons that we take vacations, and very many of those reasons result in us needing to take a vacation from the vacation. So it's interesting to kind of ponder what it is we're doing when we take these breaks. What is leisure all about? What do we mean by leisure? A young friend of mine gave me a book to read recently about, it was called Liesure, the Basis of Culture, by a philosopher and theologian, Joseph Pieper. And pretty interesting book. I mean, kind of dogmatic Catholic guy. So I, couldn't go with the whole program, but I thought he had some very wise things to say. Basically saying that leisure, ultimately, you could define it as, it's not inactivity. Leisure is not just sitting around and doing nothing. That's not leisure necessarily. Leisure is activity, or slowing down kind of activity. It's activity that doesn't have an agenda, right? That's not about being productive. It's not about contributing to the economy or producing things. It's that kind of activity. Activity that gives space for us to contemplate. It makes room for contemplation and reflection. And that in that type of activity, that we usually define as non-activity, but when you really think about it, it's still a lot of activity. It's work getting down to the beach, right? No, I'm joking. But sometimes it is. You expend a lot of energy on a vacation. But ultimately, what it's about is, real leisure is about having the space and opening up the time to be able to reflect on an experience. And it seems to me, aren't those the best vacations? It's like where you're doing something different, but you're also making time and space to reflect on what's different about this experience, to reflect on what this travel experience or time that you've taken away from your usual routine, on what effect that's having on your soul, on your inner life. Looking within, taking time to look within as you take a break from your usual routines. So what would it be like for us to take contemplative vacations? Vacations that made room for this kind of contemplation. Taking time to look carefully and deeply at what's going on inside of our minds, inside of our souls. And by doing that, by paying attention to our inner world, we're training ourselves to pay attention in general, which enables us to see more clearly and more fully appreciate the experiences that we're having when we travel or otherwise vacate. And if that's the discipline, if you will, the practice that we're doing on a vacation, if we're making our vacations into contemplative vacations, that's doing something that we can do anywhere, right? You can do it in Simi Valley. You can take a drive to Camarillo and have a contemplative vacation, because you're taking time to see things differently that you see every day and take for granted. Have you ever taken an internet vacation? That's where you get on Google Maps to the ground level view, where you see the roads and the buildings. Go there and just pick a country anywhere in the world where they've done the Google mapping, and you can visit online. It's crazy. I've done this. It's so much fun. You just pick a spot. The last time I did it was in Montenegro, I think is where I went. I'm interested in those let's check this out. So I just pick a spot on the map, and I go down and I get into the visual view of it. And then I just start following roads online. It's so fun. You see a lot. You get a sense of what the place is like. It's wonderful. And it's free. We can all do this. That's a kind of vacation you can take at home. And it kind of gets you thinking. It's like, okay, there's levels to travel, levels to vacations, but levels to leisure, right? Seeing the sights is one level, and you can do that online, right? But that's no substitute for being there in person and picking up the vibe and the sights and the smells that come with being on the ground, the sounds, the ambiance. So that's another level. And then there's another level, which is where you hang out and get to know the people, right? Connect with the culture in a meaningful way. Go beyond just visual wandering around tourism, bucket list tourism, and get to know the folks in these places, wherever you are. And then the next level is this level of contemplation. No agenda time, downtime that gives us a chance to observe our inner experience and how it is being affected, transformed, opened up, informed by our outer journey. And that, I would propose, is the real leisure. That's the real vacation, is when we get to that point. That's the culminating aspect of a good vacation. So it's something we can do anywhere. Do it right here in Simi Valley. Making a new friend in our neighborhoods. Checking out a restaurant in town that we've never been to. Doing something you've never done before right here. Going to a spot in the community that you've never really explored. And then taking the time to reflect on what it means for you, how it affects you, how it opens you up. We say Sunday is a day of rest. According to the sacred myth of Scripture, God took a break after creating the universe, right? And reflected on his process and observed that it was good. Yeah. So this is the challenge for us. When we take times of rest, days of rest, vacations, breaks, whatever you want to call them, the ultimate part of it, the core experience that I would suggest that we should aim for is this one that God took on the last day of creation, right? And that was to look at it all and realize that it's good. Yeah. And appreciate the goodness and contemplate the goodness. That's the kind of leisure that we aim for in this spiritual practice. And I would like to think that's what we do right here in church, that's what Sunday worship is all about, is taking a spiritual vacation, right? Taking a break from our usual routines, dropping our agendas for a while, just for a little while at least, sitting back, relaxing, enjoying each other as we are without an agenda, and having space to contemplate on the goodness of each other and of our community and our world. Let's take that kind of vacation every Sunday. Amen.